Okay, here we go. Hello, it is me again, and today I'm going to be reading The Island in Blood Lake, which is, obviously, it's book two. So, again, it's written and drawn by me. So, there aren't as many credits this time, but I did put the reasons why they're in. So, that's pretty nice that they helped me with that. So, here we go. Prelude. Approaching Kent, Daryl opens his mouth to speak. Hey, Kenny. Yeah? Kent says, shifting himself on the couch, reaching for the remote to pause the football game. We have been in college for a year now. It is the anniversary of us coming here. Thanksgiving will be happening in a few days, and I thought it would be nice to go camping together. Sounds nice, Kent said, analyzing the pause scene of the football player's crazy splay of actions. When do you think we should go? We should start packing up right now, because then we'd have it before we have to come back, Daryl said. Where are we gonna go? Asked Kent, staring Daryl in the face. Wait a second. There was this place on the internet. It's called Blood Lake. Whoa, dude, that sounds rad, Kent said. Can I see some pictures of it to make sure it isn't just the cool name that lures people to its boring campgrounds? Sure, said Daryl, reaching down to his tight-fitting pocket to retrieve his phone. Daryl walked around to the left side of the couch to meet up with his roommate. Daryl begins to open the phone and type up Blood Lake. Can you also look up to see if you have to bring your own food? Sure. While I'm looking this up, you can start getting the stuff ready. Okay, said Kent. You're sitting on me. Can you scoot over a bit? Oh, sorry. I got the pictures right here, said Daryl, turning his phone to face Kent. Wow, said Kent. This place looks awesome. Look at how teal that lake is. I know, said Daryl. Bro, we need to pack up now. We only have the whole break. Kent got up from the couch and went to the garage, Daryl following. Oh, bro, Kent yelled. Yeah, we should totally bring our canoe. Chapter 1. Leaving for camp. The car was packed up. The only thing left to do now was to get in and drive off. It was 9 p.m., so they had to do it in the morning. We all packed? Shouted Kent to the living room. I got the canoe loaded up. Also, I got the sleeping bags packed in it, too. The tent is in the truck. You got the backpacks? Yup, said Daryl, and they're packed with most of our day stuff. I switched the stuff in the backpacks for the stuff in the canoe. If we get lost with our backpacks, we'll be able to survive for much longer than if we had socks and shirts and a single bag of trail mix, Daryl said, looking at Kent with crossed arms. Kent got up and walked over by Daryl to go to their room. Daryl followed him, but broke off his path to go to the bathroom. Daryl wiggled into his silly dinosaur pajamas that Kent got him as a joke. These were the only pajamas he had. They didn't want to go shopping for an extra pair. Meanwhile, Kent changed into his sleep clothes, underwear and shorts. Daryl opened the creaky door and walked into the room. It was a nice room, containing a desk mainly covered in clean clothes that they didn't bother to put away. On top of the desk was a TV they could watch off the side of their bunk bed. They had an Xbox One and would sometimes play games together. Then there was their bunk bed, which resided about 2.5 meters from the desk. Clothes were also thrown on it, but only where it would bother them when they but only where it wouldn't bother them when they slept. The room was small. It was only about 16 square meters. Kent climbed into the top bunk and questioningly looked at Daryl with the remote in hand. Daryl shook his head and took the remote, setting it down gently on top of the clothes that were on the desk. Daryl walked over to the light switch and flicked it. Kent rustled under the covers and closed his eyes. Daryl was still getting situated, but was almost done. Good night, whispered Kent. Good night, replied Daryl in a quieter voice. The next morning, Kent got up, yawned, and stretched, then shakily made his way down to wake up Daryl. Kent shook Daryl awake. It's time to go, said Kent quietly. Daryl sat up, blinking and shielding his eyes from the sun. He looked down at his watch and got out of bed. He rubbed his eyes. then went to the bathroom with some clothes, put on a shirt, then some socks, and was ready. Just needed to get the blankets. Needed to get those heavy ones for the tent. Daryl came out of the bathroom fully clothed and walked to the closet. Kent followed him. Kent came out 7 seconds later carrying a large feather blanket. Daryl came with the mattress in hand and both of their pillows under his arms. They walked to the garage, opened the trunk door, and stuffed the pillows and the feather blanket in. Kent ran to get a second feather blanket just in case it was too cold, just with one. They had everything packed for the trip. Kent was going to drive. Daryl got in the passenger seat, and it took along a small blanket to wrap himself up in while Kent drove. It was about a 4-hour drive from their apartment to Blood Lake, but they were determined to go to this beautiful campsite. The two had finally come to the place the GPS led them to and turned off the dirt road. They were it. They went in about 90 more meters, and it led them to a pay to enter. The woman there didn't seem right in the head. She stuttered and then randomly stopped talking altogether to stare at nothing for about a minute each time, but she managed to get the transaction done. It's a long way from here. As soon as both Daryl and Kent looked down, she'd stopped speaking. They looked over to where she used to be and saw no one there. At least Daryl and Kent paid the money. They didn't know where she went, but they wouldn't get in any trouble if they moved on. There were no signs of her coming back after the 30 seconds they'd waited, so they drove on. The place felt different already. It made the two excited. It would take a long while to get there on this dirt road, but they were heading in the right direction. Chapter 2, Boating. This is probably a chapter that I'll end on, but I'll read until it's time. Kent got out and switched with Daryl after about half an hour of driving. This was the longest dirt road they'd ever seen. After Kent switched with Daryl, the road went on for about 4.5 hours more. They were going over faster than the speed limit, otherwise, it would have taken much longer. The road was really bumpy, and they had just got new springs. It felt cool to be going fast on the road and almost be going forward in a straight line the whole time. After about an hour on the dirt road, it began to snow gently. They continued driving. 3 hours in, they came across something lying in the snow. Daryl didn't see it, but Kent did. Laying on the side of the road was a figure. Kent got up to get a better look at it. It was a feminine figure lying in the snow face down. She wasn't moving. She had brown hair, and the hair was twisting around in the wind. Kent looked behind him to watch the figure pass behind them. The figure was dead, her last desperate moments literally frozen in time. She was trying to walk out of this place on foot. Kent didn't process the woman good enough in his mind, and they kept on driving. Kent laid down his chair and put the blanket back over himself. He'd completely forgotten about the figure. After the 4.5 hours, they came upon a parking lot. As soon as they parked, the car automatically turned off. Kent thought that Daryl turned the car off. Kent got out of the car while Daryl inspected the car system. Then he walked over and got out a little step ladder and propped it up so he could access the luggage inside of the canoe. Daryl had shrugged off the car's failure and helped Kent get out the luggage. Daryl got up the tent and walked over to where he thought was a good place to set it up. There was a camper sitting in the parking lot. The snow would have made the ground colder to sleep on, but they had padding to lay on instead. The two feather blankets should keep them from freezing. Kent had helped Daryl get the tent set up and went over to inspect the camper, Daryl following close behind. There was no sign of movement near the camper. There was something tied to the camper. It looked like it was half horse, half human. It was very rotten and smelled horrible. Dude, I think whoever lived here were witches. Or whatever currently lives here, Kent said, getting chills and giving them as well. I don't think we should go inside, said Daryl quietly, staring at the half-caved-in door. Despite Daryl's warnings, Kent opened the door anyway. It was kind of a nice camper. The oven door had been tied to the floor, and all of the cabinets had been open. Boxes lay strewn out randomly on the ground. There were mac and cheese boxes and rice bags, and all of it was empty. The cabinets were empty. Everything was gone. There was something else on the floor, too. A body laying there on the floor face down just like the woman Kent saw earlier in the road. They had the same features. Could they have possibly been family?